Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Only ideas had while walking have any value." It also said, "Any idea had inside has no merit." And today I want to stress to you guys the value of taking walks and a activity that many profound thinkers and people who have shaped the way humans have lived on this earth have valued walks. Now, to clarify and get to the bottom of what Nietzsche meant, I believe he meant, because I don't believe all ideas had inside have no merit, but obviously they don't. But I believe what Nietzsche was trying to stress was more of the fact that when you're outside, you you're not enclosed. You're not being closed-minded. You're being open-minded. When you're inside, and this isn't you can be open-minded inside, but I think, like the philosophical point is that, when you're inside, you got a roof, you're closed thinking. When you're outside, you just, the world, you're open thinking. And I just took a walk before this video to, in spirit of the video. And there's a lot of interesting things I figured out, as I do in many walks. But thinking about this topic, I want to stress a few points. I think, for one, taking a walk, if you are going through a hard time and you just need to get some stuff off your mind or anything of that nature, I think taking a walk is extremely valuable. And if you haven't taken a walk, then you should, because the action of moving forward instead of sitting there lamenting, ruminating, and doom looping on the thing that is upsetting you, as you walk, you are moving forward physically, and that can mentally move you forward and just make you feel better and help you not ruminate on one thing. And this amazing thing with walking is one of my criticisms of walking. I think everyone's different, but for me, when I walk, I sometimes have trouble, hammering home one single point. I thought about many things as I was walking, and many things that were not on the topic of taking a walk. And I think that's a side effect of just moving forward constantly. It's like Nietzsche once said, and I thought of this while I was walking, Nietzsche once said he wanted to, I think, philosophize with a hammer. And I think what he meant by that is, like, when he has a point, he wants to hammer it home. He wants to hammer the nail flush, drain all the marrow out of the idea and get to the bottom of it. And I believe when you're walking, it's like you're walking by with a hammer, hitting nails. And, you can go flush, 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 but then you hit a nail and it doesn't go flush. But you move past it. At least that's kind of how I feel on some topics. You have a new thought already, and you're like, no, I want to go flush on that. And for me, it's sometimes easier to truly go flush on a topic and dig deep into a concept when I'm sitting there journaling, because then I can truly focus my mind on one topic and not get all around. But if I'm trying to get ideas, if I want profound thoughts to come to my head, then walking, I think, really is the way. Because for me, it just, the action of moving forward, it's just new thought after new thought. And then you see something, it reminds you of something. You see something else, reminds you of something else. It's just thoughts coming at a rapid speed. So I think if you're in the business of wanting profound thoughts and getting good topics to say, make a video, walking is your best friend. But if you have an idea that you want to pursue, it might be a good idea to sit down and write about it and really hammer home the point. At least for me, everyone's different. You got to figure out your own thing. But I think that's just a side effect, good and bad, depending on what your goal is of walking. You're continuously moving forward. You don't get stuck on one thing. And this can be great if you're just worrying and worrying and worrying about a single outcome happening. Take a walk and you can get over that pretty easily, I believe. But sit there and lament on it, it's hard to get over. And as I said, I think that's just the nature of walking. So that is an upside and a downside to walking, I believe. But truly, if you are worrying about something, like just take a walk. It can't hurt. That's a very valuable thing to remember. It cannot hurt. If you are very stressed out and trying to get past a certain problem, taking a walk will not hurt. But, numbing it with, drugs, alcohol, social media, things of that nature, that is not what you want to do. But taking a walk and just, you know, moving forward, moving your body physically can help move your brain mentally. And I don't think that's crazy to understand, because you are moving and your brain is just it's getting so much sensory information. It can't afford to just sit there and worry about this metaphysical thing that isn't happening. It has, it's walking. It's got to make sure it's not falling on its face. It's got to make sure it's not walking into traffic. It's got to observe its surroundings, make sure, there's no bears trying to attack you. That's to go back to, our ancient um, motivations, or, our primal motivations. But I think it makes sense. And I think it's very valuable to just take a walk sometimes. Also, very valuable to choose where you walk. If you really want to take a walk and let your mind go, and I think truly enjoy the walk, don't walk down Main Street with cars going by, people you need to avoid, got to cross the road. You don't want to do that, because your mind can't just go. You got to worry about so much. And that's why I love hiking so much, because you can get into a place where you have a potential to not see anybody for hours. You don't have to worry about, walking by somebody and saying hi and getting out of their way. Your mind can just go. And that's a big reason why I really enjoy hiking, because you can just go and not worry about traffic noises, like no car noises, and dogs barking and things of that nature. You can just go. And that's choosing where and when you walk. I made a video today, actually, but probably a couple days ago, with how I post. But I said the title is going to be "Seize the Divine Communion the Morning Offers." And I talk about, taking a walk in the morning. And I think this is the perfect time to take walks, because there'll be, the less traffic, people out, and there's just something special about the morning. There's something about a morning walk that just it's different than an afternoon walk or even a night walk. They all just feel different in their own way. And a morning walk just feels the best to just relieve stress, relieve worry, and have good thoughts. If you're in the position where you need to be a deep thinker and you don't take walks, I think you're doing your job, task, whatever you want to say, a disservice, because you're missing an opportunity for a deep creative time that you could be having on a walk. And I don't like to carry my phone too often, especially if I'm going for a walk where it's just I want my brain to go. But I think it could be a valuable thing I might start doing to carry, a piece of paper with you. Because as I said, it's like when you're walking, so much is just coming and going, coming and going. And in these, you have, I forgot his name, but yeah, I forgot his name, but talks about how thoughts are like clouds. And, a thought comes, like a cloud comes, and then it's gone. And if you have a really good thought, a really good idea to do something, or a really good idea to implement into your life, it's like a cloud. You some clouds last longer than others, and you could really just try to remember it, but it's better to write it down so you don't forget. So if you are taking a walk and you are looking for some creative inspiration, I'd urge I'd urge bring a piece of paper and not a phone, because you can get distracted by a phone. Even if you have it on do not disturb, even if you have it silenced, even if it's dead, just the feeling of it in your pocket, hitting against your leg, the reminder that it's on you, the reminder that it's there. I don't like it. And I think it gets in the way of having good thoughts. Because even if you only think about it a couple times, those are thoughts that could have been other thoughts, that could have led to other thoughts, that could have led to a profound realization, that could have led to something beautiful. So beware, I think, of having your phone. Beware of when you decide to choose to walk. If you choose to walk at the busiest time of the day, you're going to lose something compared to if you walk at 5:30 in the morning when the sun's coming up and you can see the steam coming off of a pond and you can hear the birds clearly and you hear no traffic. You're just going to have a different experience. And the latter experience is way more divine. I think way better for mental health, way better for thoughts and creative inspiration. But even if you're not a person who cares about being creative or thinking or things of that nature, if you're stressed out or you're worrying about anything, or you just want to have a nice, peaceful walk, isn't peace of mind the goal? If you want that, take a walk. Just take a walk. And another thing regarding where you take a walk, I would never nowadays walk on a treadmill. If I want to go walk before the gym, I'll go walk outside and then I'll go to the gym. I don't want to walk at the gym. I don't want to walk inside. And I can kind of understand what Nietzsche says with, no thought inside has merit. I don't think I can have a really good thought walking on a treadmill at a gym. It's just, it's confining, it's constricting. It's it's not where I want to have that communion with the gods. I'd rather have it outside, in nature, alone, with as little human external noises as possible. Just some things to think about, when you walk, where you walk, how you walk, just get good shoes. I mean, this isn't really like a how-to video, but I mean, it could be. Because if you're walking, and if you're like in the city, I'm sorry, but you need to try to get out and go somewhere for a walk. Usually you can get out of a city pretty quick and you can get somewhere where you're just alone in nature. And if you can't, noise canceling headphones are a great thing. Get some of those and just, put them, you can put on white noise for noise canceling headphones. But yeah, I just really want to stress that you don't need to be in a creative pursuit to want to take a walk. If you just want to alleviate some stress or anything, it can't hurt if you take a walk.